And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet with the courage to ask, is it a good idea for the President of the United States to tell the world he doesn't care about the American people's financial health, not even a little bit?
And we asked that question because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And in this week's episode, we're going to discuss the fallout from the UK local elections and national elections in Scotland and Wales. We're going to discuss Nigel Farage's continuing issues with all that money he makes. We're going to also discuss the King's speech, which happened this week as well.
Looking internationally, we're going to be the only podcast to dare to ask the question, why are gas prices so low?
Moving to the United States, we're going to be discussing Trump's gaffe, one of them, and also redistricting issues in South Carolina and in Maryland. We're also going to be talking about the White House insider who just spilled all the beans on how great things are going behind those gates. Kash Patel went to Hawaii, so something happened there. You know it's not good. And in good news, looks like Zohran Mamdani is keeping a promise. All that and more on Doctors Not Doctors starting right now. Patrick.
Chris.
So I don't know if you looked out your window this week, but a giant gilded carriage went past it.
No, I don't have windows, Chris.
Yeah, and
I live in a hole.
You live in a hole. You live in a lovely hole for hobbits, a hobbit
exactly.
hole. They call it a hole. It's really a nice house. But yeah, this week we've had the fallout from the local elections, and we also had the King's speech, which was on Wednesday. We were recording this on the 15th of May.
That's right.
And I think we're going to start with the post-election madness. It has been a completely nuts week in the UK politically.
Just a scooch.
Yeah, just a scotch. Just a scotch there.
Little tad there. Yeah.
It's been wild because you have all these different things that have happened in the UK which have never happened before, and you have the kind of the press class looking for more and more drama, and they're finding it because the Labour Party is doing their very best to outclass the Conservative Party in total chaos.
Yeah.
So I think first let's start with frankly calm and normal, where we have Wales and Scotland, right. Where in Wales, the first Plaid Cymru First Minister, Reen Ap Oriath, I think I'm butchering it right.
I'm going to try. Can I butcher it? Can I try butchering it?
You try. Yeah, go ahead and try.
Reen Ap Oriath.
Ooh.
I feel like you got to put that H in the R, really make it sing like that, right?
Well, one day we're going to have him on the pod, and he's going to tell us how to do it properly. All right, Delith, I'm looking at you. So, all right. So he was installed as or nominated as the First Minister of Wales with a 43 seats behind him as Plaid Cymru has the largest amount of seats in the Welsh Senate, followed by Reform, who has 34. Labour in third place on 9, the Conservatives on 7, the Greens on 2, and Lib Dems on 1. And unlike Scotland, there are no top-ups. It is a fully proportional system. This is it. There are 96 seats in Wales, all for the Senate, and Plaid Cymru has come out on top, and not just by a little bit, by a good amount, but it is not enough for a majority. They are 6 short of a majority.
Right, so they got 43 then, right?
Yeah, 43.
All right.
Yeah, they're 6 short of a majority, but...
So in terms of forming a government, right? If they're looking to form an actual coalition, then what kind of options are available to them? Who gives them that fabled 6th seat, basically, that they might be willing to work with?
Well, I don't believe they're going to form a coalition. I'm willing to be corrected on this, but I don't think that they are seeking a coalition at this time. I think that because he's already been appointed as First Minister, which means it's time for him to form a government. Now they might, but there's not a lot of people that they can party with, and there's only really 3 parties that have enough seats to get them over the line. That would be Reform, Labour, and the Conservatives. Now they're not going to party with Reform because nobody should. Labour Party, maybe they've been partners before, but
I feel like the Labour Party may not be willing to do that. It's got to be a bit hard if you're Welsh Labour to go from we have been in charge. We've been the biggest party here for 100 years. And now we are a very small minor party in a coalition with the people who used to be the very small minor party in our coalition. I feel like the Labour members of the Senate may not be able to stretch themselves quite that far, perhaps.
No, it's a big jump from being permanently in charge to being the minority partner in a coalition with a party that not too long ago was, barely making it by. And now they are the largest party in the Welsh Senate. And you have to ask yourself, well, it's a tough pill to swallow. I'll put it like that. Yeah. So, and of course, in the UK, they're not really used to coalitions. Now, Wales has had them before, but across the UK, they're really trying to find majority governments. And this is, I'm hoping that we're peeling away from the idea that you need to have a majority in order to govern. I don't buy that concept at all. I think that Europe does not run on that concept. Lots of countries do not have that. Even Brazil, which is like, it's a presidential system. It's a quasi-presidential system, really. Right. But their legislature, they need different kinds of coalitions to run, so that, because it's not just one person or one group of people who can make all the decisions. It's usually, several different kinds of parties. So what they're doing in Wales is what they're doing in Scotland as well, which is a minority government. And that means that they're always going to need to ask for help. But that allows the minority parties in the Senate to be part of some of the decision making. But the ultimate decider will be Plaid Cymru. So
so if I can sort of put it in these terms, then, because I think I've got the idea. After all, I'm just an American, and so therefore my experience with parliamentary politics is relatively limited. But it seems like what you're describing is, on the one hand, if you had a coalition, that would be bargaining before you create the government, parties looking for coalition partners and saying, okay, you join in the government, you get this ministry in exchange, you're in charge of this portfolio, and then you agree that we're all going to vote together, we're all going to vote yes on things, and we're going to be a stable governing body, effectively. Whereas forming a minority government, which is what you're talking about here, would be, you don't have any coalition partners, you don't have a majority. If you want to pass something, you have to go on a case-by-case basis to various members of other parties and say, vote for us on this thing, because either you agree with it for your own purposes, it's a good idea, or because, here's something we can offer in exchange later on. Like, well, you vote for this, we'll introduce some other bill that you're in favor of later on. Have I got that right?
More or less. I mean, that's just the nature of all like coalitions. I'm sorry. This minority governments is that eventually, because you don't have enough collectively to beat them, or you'd have to party with people that you don't want to party with, and you'd create an instability. So I think it's better for the consumer, in this case, the electorate. Who are able to get, so basically they're people who lost the election, right? You got, they're the Greens with one, but let's say you wanted to cobble together some bill and, and reform isn't going to get behind you because they're never going to. Right. So you can cobble together some kind of coalition. I mean, if all the Labor guys got behind Plaid, you're done. Ball game, right?
That's true.
But you can get, the Greens and Libs, that gives you 3. So they get you up to 46. You need 5 more. Then you can try to peel off 1 or 2. But I mean, it's not going to be easy. But it's the best for democracy, where you don't have one party just in total control all the time. Now, there's some cases where that is probably for the best, but especially if you're talking about a brand new system in Wales in governance, then this might put Wales as kind of the Wyoming of America. Do you know why I call them the Wyoming of America?
Because they really like cowboy hats.
No, Wyoming was the first state in the union to allow women to vote.
Wow. All right. Yeah, that's true. God, Wyoming. What the hell happened, man?
What the hell happened? There are theories, but I won't get into them now. Totally unsubstantiated theories. Let's move on to Scotland, which is a much easier First Minister's name to pronounce, John Swinney. John Swinney,
That's
MSP.
Almost disappointing, actually.
It is. And there are some tough names in Scotland as well. But not this one. John Swinney and the Scottish National Party, of which I work for the SNP Westminster Group. So I know a lot of the people who were elected. I was off by my hopes. I was hoping that we'd get 60 to 63 seats. We got 58 seats in the end. And because of a different system, because obviously the UK needs to have 3 or 4 different kinds of electoral systems across the board.
Oh, absolutely.
129 seats in Scotland. 73 of them are elected as first past the post seats, and 56 are elected as additional member seats.
Right. Now, how do additional member seats work exactly?
My best assumption here is that there's a certain amount of votes that you have to get in a high enough percentage of the vote. If you get over a certain percentage of the vote, then you are able to take a list off of the seat. Now, each region has a number of seats in it, so you just have to make sure that you get enough votes to get it. And this was kind of a point of contention because the SNP wanted to basically give both votes to the SNP. And then because it's really, really, really difficult to get a majority, as we found here, because you need to get 65 seats for a majority, but there's only 73 first past the post seats. So you need to get a super majority of first past the post seats or some kind of balance between the two. But for every first past the post seat you win, you're not going to be put on the additional member list because you don't need one because you already have one.
Oh, I see. So the additional member list is purely for those who didn't win in that area through the single member district.
More or less, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, that really does kind of militate against creating a majority, even if you did have, say, a majority voting for one party. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and it's specifically designed to prevent any particular party from getting a majority. And so the SNP only have one seat on the list because in the Highlands and Islands region, we didn't win Caithness, I believe. And Mary Todd, who was standing there, I will check this in a second just to make sure I'm right. Mary Todd was on the list as well as running for office, and she did not win the first past the post seat, so she is one on the list, and she's the only one on the list. Yeah,
right, gotcha.
Yeah, she was in Caithness, Sunderland, and Ross, and now she is on the list for the Highlands and Islands region, the only one that we have. Gotcha. So everybody else that's how they get the rest.
Out of curiosity, how does the proportion of parties in the Scottish Parliament then stack up against the proportion of the votes? Like, does this system, which seems madness to me, does it lead towards something that's a little bit more proportional, or is it more disproportional in its effects? Because I mean, single member districts are pretty disproportionate when you get down to it, right?
It's a combination of both, right? So, yeah. So basically, the S&P got 38. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to read and speak here at the same time.
I'm making a research real time, people.
Research real time.
This is internet without a net.
Internet without a net. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to generalize here that it's much more proportional than obviously the system in Westminster, which, on 33% of the vote, you can get 2/3 of the seats.
As indeed Keir Starmer's Labour did.
Keir Starmer's Labour did, yeah. So I'd have to come back to you on the exact proportionality because I haven't looked into it yet. But it is, something like you might be 10% off as opposed to 30 or 40% off of the vote. From kind of things I've seen online. So it's a lot closer. It's not perfect, but it's much, much closer because the first past the post system is going to throw you off. Yeah, because first past the post election is going to be wildly different from the from the regional list election, right? So that's the difference. But maybe we could have a short or something on kind of the proportionality and and it might be a good idea. I mean, it's a totally nerdy thing to do, and we should one day get back to our roots of being total,
right. So we can have little side nerds. We can have a side nerd.
Side nerds. Yeah. Another short. Yeah. If we ever have enough free time, we can do that, which we never have.
That's all right. So someday Trump will just chill out for a whole week. We'll have nothing to talk about. And then we could talk about political science stuff.
We could. One day.
Yeah.
One day.
Yep. Next year in Jerusalem.
Exactly. So that's basically what happened in Scotland. Now, obviously, there's the questions of, the independence referendum, which we discussed last week. That's still an open question. There's another open question as well, which is who's going to be the second party. So the fun thing here is that Labour and Reform both got 17 seats.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So did Reform do better in the single member districts or better in the alternate or in the additional member list?
Oh, they got all their seats from the additional member list. They got 0 constituency seats.
That is a little embarrassing for Labour, not entirely embarrassing for Reform.
So Labour has 3 constituency seats and Reform has 0. Labour, and think about it like this. Because Labour got 3 seats, they only have 14 in the regions, where Reform got 0 seats and got 17 in the regions. So, basically, there's now a debate on how you determine who the second and third parties are.
Coin flip.
They will not do a coin flip.
Oh, come on. That's what we do in America.
Yeah, this is believe it or not, a lot more tribal. And there's there's kind of like this big deal. Who's going to be the main opposition to the SNP? Is it going to be Reform, who are terrible, or is it going to be Labour, who are having the worst year in 100 years?
Yeah,
so,
seriously.
They wanted to go off, the constituency vote. Then maybe you have 3 constituency members, but you can't say one member is better than another.
That's
you can't say that first past the post members are elected are better off than
the additional list. I don't know if you're going to tie break. Like if it's literally coming down to the same number of seats, but something has to differentiate because there does have to be a second and a third place party for reasons of organizing the parliament. It would seem like you should be able to rely on almost anything. Right? Like which party has a higher average number of toes, because someone's missing a toe out there somewhere, right?
Well, it will come down to just negotiations and who can make their argument the best, because vote share doesn't really matter to a lot of people. So that's where we are with Scotland. We're not going to beleaguer this point any further. Let's talk about England.
Okay, let's do it.
We've spent a lot of time talking about this other stuff. Let's finally get to what everybody wants to hear about.
Hey, this is a united kingdom, Chris. The constituent elements are all equally important.
Wow.
So, let's not be too London centric. Oh, sorry, I meant to say England centric, because I never think about the rest of England as I live in London.
Yeah, of course.
Hey-o.
Outside of the M25, there's just dragons and
obviously,
and the wasteland.
No, I am obviously kidding about that, but let's turn our attention back to England.
Yeah, or not back to 2, because we didn't start there. We're finishing this particular section there.
All right.
And England is a totally different story. Let's start here in England with a terrible night for Labour. Terrible, no good, very bad day for Labour. And it's basically I'm trying to get up the numbers here. Thousands of seats, 12,000 seats, I believe. Went to Reform. I'm not 12,000. I'm sorry, 1,200 seats about that had gone to Reform, and Labour, I believe, came in second. If you give me a second, I'll pull up the numbers right now. But Labour, I believe, came second with, but they had lost approximately 1,400 seats. I'm sorry, it wasn't 1,200. It was 1,454 seats went to Reform. Labour won 1,068 seats. These are all in councils. The Lib Dems got 844. The Conservatives got 801. The Greens got 587, a massive increase from before. And independent candidates got 213, which is another massive increase. But obviously, the story of the day is that Keir Starmer got drop kicked, and as soon as these results came out, there were people calling for Keir Starmer to resign, and from within the party, a Labour MP called Catherine West. She was the first one to tweet that it's time for him to go. It's time to set up an orderly transition, or else I will declare that I'm standing and trigger the process.
Right.
So it's and all of this is done in the background of, on the 13th, on the Wednesday, there has to be a King's Speech. because you've already called the king. They've already set up all the horses. They put down all the sand. They've got the bands out there. They've got the flags. I mean, and it seemed, it was unclear on Monday morning if the prime minister was going to be the prime minister for the king's speech. So the king was like, according to reports, surely I don't need to be here because I don't know if you're going to be there.
That's a fair point. He's a busy king. He's got things to do. He's got hands to shake, babies to kiss, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, basically the fallout of the election is that you have a completely weakened Keir Starmer. And I mean, over the past week, he's had kind of a catalyst of leadership challenge from Catherine West. And then you had an actual leadership challenge, although it took a couple of days, from West Streeting, the health secretary.
Right. Now he's kind of a big deal to have resigned from the government, right? So tell me where he is in the Labour Party, Chris.
He is still considered to be on the right wing. He has ties to Mandelson. He has a lot of likability within the confines of London. You leave there, it gets harder for him. And he's not the most well-liked person in the party. And I'm not saying he's a not liked guy. I'm just like, he is not universal. Like, there's the new leader. There he is right there. There's some people who back him. There's some people who don't. And this is the issue. The rules of the Labour Party are pretty clear. It's not like the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party is,
well, they got the 1922 commission, right? Or the committee. Thank you. I'm really bad at this. That's my job.
That's why I'm here.
So my understanding there is that effectively in the Conservative Party, if you want there to be a leadership challenge, you submit a letter secretly to the 1922 committee.
Yeah,
and if enough of those letters accumulate up to a certain point, then it's announced that there's going to be a challenge, and then you set up the thing. And that's actually how Margaret Thatcher ended up leaving office, if I'm not mistaken.
She left before the hammer dropped.
Well, before that vote was taken, but that's because she knew which way it was going. A little bit like Richard Nixon left before he could be impeached, but that's because he knew which way that vote was going to go.
Yeah. So, and also like Theresa May, and not like Boris Johnson, not like I don't even love. There's been total chaos here. But the Labour Party is totally different. 20% of members. There's basically two ways to get rid of a Labour leader. Basically, there's the resignation. So if Keir Starmer decides to resign, and then there's basically a contest, and either a member has to get 20% of Labour MPs to support them, which is about 81 members, or 5% of local Labour groups or some other affiliate groups, and across the UK. And then they have a contest, and they have a vote by the alternative vote, and then eventually somebody will come out on top. But if you want to challenge the leadership, you need to have 20% of the members supporting you. And then the current leader is always on the list of people who are standing for leader, plus the contenders, right? So theoretically, you'd have West Streeting on that list, but he needs to get 81 members. There's another person called Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham, who was a member of Parliament, now he's mayor of Manchester.
King in the North.
He is the king in the North, and he's well liked up there. And he was prevented from getting a seat from running in the Gorton and Denton by-election. But now a member, Jamie, so there's an MP who was responsible for Labour Together. He is now standing down alongside, of course, my two MPs, Stephen Guthins and Stephen Flynn, who have been sworn in Holyrood. They will have stood down as well. So this other MP, Jamie something, is standing down today or whatever. Depends. We can get into that weirdness later. Basically, Andy Burnham has potentially a way to stand in a by-election, but of course he's got to win that by-election, which is another question. And then you have Burnham, you've got Streeting, and anyone else who can get 81 members.
Well, I think it's important at this point to bring up one other name who, is, I think, an interesting person in this context. So I'm talking, of course, about former sort of, vice leader of the country, Angela Rayner. So
good call. Yes, Angela Rayner.
Yeah, so Angela Rayner, she was basically number 2 for Keir Starmer when the government began, and she was sort of seen as being like the left-wing representative in a party that had been, spending a lot of its time kind of purging the left,
courting the right.
Yeah, courting the right, purging the left. But Angela Rayner was sort of like the symbol of, but we're not going to get crazy about it. Obviously, there's still a left wing of the party. It's fine. And then, of course, there was this big story that came out about her, which was that she may have underpaid her property taxes on a property that was owned by a trust set up for her son who was disabled due to medical negligence, and the damages from that case had been used to purchase the property for him in the form of the trust. But because she was one of the trustees, therefore she had to pay a specific rate, but then she paid a lower rate. And she said that she relied upon her tax lawyers. And the media said, no, she's a scumbag. And clearly has been. Anyway, so, she got forced out, and she's sort of been on the margins of the party since then. Until, I think, what is it, yesterday? HMRC.
Yesterday.
Yeah, HMRC came out and cleared her and said that, there's no indication she committed a crime. They do not think that she knowingly paid the wrong tax. She has now paid the tax she owed. All is right with the world. So
how are you?
That's the thing. So basically, Angela Rayner, who's been effectively completely and totally sidelined from the party while this thing has been hanging over her head, that cloud is gone.
Yeah.
And she is someone who was in the government. She is someone who, has the support of potentially a big chunk of the party that I think has been very much sidelined as the party has started collapsing. Like, I don't think, as much as you might have argued that the left wing of the Labour Party shot its bolt and screwed up with Jeremy Corbyn, I think an argument at this point that the right of the party has screwed up and shot its bolt with Keir Starmer and Morgan McSweeney. I think it's hard to argue against that at this point. So, I think she's a dark horse in that sense. But it's also worth pointing out that she said that she, if I have this right, she would be willing to stand basically for leadership of the party. But the goal would not be for her to become the leader as much as it is for there to be a person chosen so Labour can get back to business and solidify and start working again. Which I interpret as her giving a signal that if Burnham's able to win his seat, if he's able to re-enter Parliament, and if he has the support, she's not going to stand in his way. Which is, potentially very, very noble. I prefer Rayner, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, I think there is this assumption that if Burnham gets in, he's going to be able to do something magical and revive the Labour Party. I don't agree. I think that Labour has, and this isn't just being biased, I think that the Labour brand is totally tarnished. And unless you're coming in with, universal basic income and, free food or something, like food is a human right, and therefore you don't need to pay for it anymore. Things like that. I'm talking about like things that are tangible and ground changing. We're not talking about, the renters' rights bill, which is great. It's it's a bit complicated, but frankly, it's skewing the system more towards renters as opposed towards landlords. That's why landlords hate it. But
they're welcome to. Yeah, they're welcome to hate the hell out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, because it makes things harder for them and easier for the tenants, and so some of them are like, I need to get out of the system. Like, fantastic, fine, but you need something that, like what Farage is promising, right? He's promising, concentration camps. He's promising, like Punch and Immigrant Day. He's promising that all your problems will be solved as long as you vote for me. And, and I'm going to make sure that all the things that you think are your problems are gone. It's never going to work, and he's never going to do it. But once he gets in, he's going to do what he really wants, which is, crypto billionaire nonsense. But
well, it's much more remunerative, Chris. But don't worry, he'll still be fine if you go and punch an immigrant.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Get rid of the ECHR, get rid of your right to free speech, things like that. But again, we can get into that later because obviously he was the big winner in England, but he did not have nearly as big of the vote as he would have had last year. Yeah. So I think that the main issue for Labour right now is that this week has been politically and visibly a bin fire. It has been a dumpster fire of the highest order. You've had Westminster, who was their main candidate to kind of stand against Starmer, and the press are sitting outside number 10 screaming, and are you going to resign, Mr. Streeting? Are you going to resign, Prime Minister? Because that's the dignity of the British press. They stand across the street from Downing Street and then scream at the top of their lungs at passing ministers. But what they're doing is it's not saving anybody's, it's not building anybody's opinions back of Labour, right? Yeah. Because you still don't have a leadership challenge. You still don't have a transition from Starmer. Starmer's saying, I'm staying here until you can find a way to get me out. And the final part about this, before I move on, is that those 81 members, that 20% of the party that you need to have sign your papers, that's public.
Which is very different to how the Tories do it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because with the Tories, you hand your paper in to the chair of the 1922 committee. That's put into a safe, and then effectively the chair of the 1922 committee decides on when that number is the right number, and you can never check. But here you have 20% of the party or members have to sign this piece of paper saying, I want this person to be the leader. And there's 400 of them. So there's 100 people who have apparently signed a supporting letter for Keir Starmer, and there's there's about 90 people who said he's got to go publicly. So that's about 200 people who are already
who've already chosen a side.
Chosen their sides, right? Leaving about 200-ish left. And so there's about 200-ish left. I don't know how many of those would be the government. So 80, and you divide that into 80, you're not getting a lot of people who can win.
Well, that's the thing. If you're not allowed to sign up for more than one contender, right?
Well, yeah, I think you can.
Well, that's the thing. Then effectively that would mean that, there's 300 potential votes at play. That would be enough for no more than 3 challengers to actually be able to enter into the lists, right? So, and that's quite interesting. So if you have Streeting, if you have Burnham, you could conceivably still have Rayner in there. But I think that may be one of the reasons why she's letting it be known that this isn't an Angela Rayner show. This is we need to solidify behind someone who can rebuild the party and then actually do something useful in government before, the general election, because it might be helpful to be able to say, hey, we did stuff, guys, before you go asking for their votes again. So I don't know. It strikes me as a situation where you're much more likely to see a tipping point, right? Where no one is signing up for a challenger until everyone is signing for a challenger, right?
Well, we'll see. It's the left. So you know what they say about the left, what I say about the left splits and the right unites. Let's move on. All right. Just real quickly, just to note a few things because we've gone along, because obviously we're talking about 3 different nations and their things. Nigel Farage is being investigated by the Parliamentary Commissioner for Standards for his £5 million donation from the British-born Thai billionaire. And
he's under investigation just for his crimes. What kind of country is this, Chris?
Well, I wouldn't say they're crimes yet. Well, that'll be up to Daniel Greenberg, CB, to see if if there's any kind of issue here with his accepting of the money, because it was a personal gift.
See, except that the British law has a particular way of looking at gifts. It's not a thing we could just say, oh yeah, well, I gave this money to the person. It's totally a gift. There's no strings attached whatsoever. I pinky swear, and then it's all fine, right? The law is a bit cynical when it comes to gift giving. So if you give someone £5 million or more, and then that person is able to get into a position of power and trust where they could use that power and abuse that trust to do something for someone who gave them £5 million or more, right? The law doesn't look at that and say, oh, well, I'm sure everything is fine, nothing to see here. The law is going to say, right, so are there any quos to go with this quid, perchance?
Well, I mean, his immediate change to cryptocurrency, shilling for cryptocurrency is obviously something that would need to be looked at. But also, something else popped up this week, which did not help. Apparently, the Sky News discovered that Nigel Farage, after he got the donation, bought a £1.4 million house somewhere. In Surrey in May 2024, which Farage says, "Oh, I got that money because I was on I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here." So basically, it's getting kind of murky. Okay, so you get 5 million quid from this random dude, and don't tell anybody about it. Then you have 1.4 million to buy a house in Surrey. Then you have this, and then you have that. I mean, and then he wins this election. I mean, not wins. He wins his election in his seat. So yeah, it's getting wobbly for him. But let's never forget that according to John Curtis, the pollster in chief for the United Kingdom, it doesn't matter to his voters. The people who vote reform just don't care. Massive corruption potential. Who cares? He's still going to punch that immigrant in the face.
The same thing is true of Donald Trump in the United States. But I think the fact that everyone sort of focuses on, but the diehard MAGA, for example, they don't care about Trump's, corruption. The Brexit voters, or not even the Brexit voters, just like the true purple reform voters. What's that color?
Reform is blue, light blue. Cyan, if you will.
Okay, the true cyan voter, if you will, doesn't care about Farage's potential corruption. I mean, this is all true, and yet I still think stories like this matter, because ultimately, it's not about the people who are already convinced true believers, who are always going to be a small minority of any electorate on any side. Instead, it has to do with how the larger sort of free-floating voter, the unattached voter, the voter who is really considering, I might vote reform because I need a change and not because I'm activated by, and then I can punch an immigrant. Woohoo! For something like that, it was like, I want to shake up the system. Things are unacceptable as they are, and there doesn't seem to be an appropriate party to go with. Might very well hear that story and be like, well, that's just corrupt. And there are potentially other parties I can look at. I
think that you have a good point there. I think, and there's always the middle. There's always the people who aren't the zealots, and I think we are talking about zealots who will follow him and Trump, without question.
That's the point of being a zealot, Chris.
Of course.
Yeah.
What's the point of being a zealot if you can't run off the cliff?
I ask myself that every single day, Chris.
I think let's finish off here in this section with a oddly poignant note from Kemi Badenoch. I took note of this in the debate on the King's speech, and it was interesting because she had lived through kind of the Tory turmoils of different leaders, she survived by the skin of her teeth. But she said something that I just took note of, and she said in the chamber, she said to the effect of, becoming prime minister isn't a game. This isn't strictly come dancing. And despite appearances, it is not the traitors either. If you are a housing secretary who cannot work out her housing taxes, if you are a health secretary who can only cut waiting lists by deleting names from them, if you are Gordon Brown's former chief secretary to the Treasury and you think bond markets are a hoax, I can assure you that being prime minister is going to be a lot tougher. This is the part that I cared about. The rest of that is politics, right? That's just attacking the people in the queue. This is the real part. Too many have failed because they thought that winning an election or a leadership contest was the success, but it's not. The work does not end when you get the job. That's when it starts. And that's the first time she's ever said anything that I'm like, hey, she's right.
Yeah, no, that's a flat out statement of truth right there. Damn. I will give props to Kemi Badenoch, and that is not a person to whom I thought I would give props.
Nope. because immediately afterwards, she then went on to attack the poor and the sick. And she's like, the only way to balance the books is to, get the poor get the poor into the mines and the sick out of their beds. It was like a few seconds later. It was just this little light of like logic and reality. And she literally said about 2 minutes later, you cannot solve the problems of the countries unless you fix the civil service, the regulators, the legislative jacket, and the powers transferred from parliament to the courts. Unless you fix the structures of government, everyone will continue to fail. Britain is not she went on to attack the ECHR. I mean, she's, it's there was absolutely nothing redeeming about the rest of her speech. That little nugget of decency, I would even say. It caught my attention, and I think she's right. I think that a lot of the reason we are where we are with the UK and the rotating prime ministers and the kind of inability to have stability is because so many people are looking at politics as kind of this kind of singular gain game. I need to get that job. I need to win that position, and then
build
I can
that political CV.
And I can finally relax because I've been working for 15, 20 years, 30 years to be this thing. I have finally achieved it. And now somebody taps on his shoulder and says, we need you to build 30 hospitals in 18 months, and you have no money to do it. And then you're just like, but that's not I didn't come here for that. I came here to be the health secretary so I can go off and tell people that everything's fine. Just like, no. First off, you're taking over from somebody else. You're never the new, you're always standing on the shoulders of someone else. And that's the thing that I've seen the most here.
I would say is that an issue with the structure of government? Is that an issue with the political culture? Because, if you look at British history, right, like the basic structures of parliament have been relatively constant. But I do feel like there has been sort of a shift in how politics is done in Britain in a way that has made it more similar to American politics. And in a way, I think that is just corrosive, to government in Britain. So
I think the biggest issue is, of course, once you get in the door in America, it's hard to get you out of it, as we see with Trump, as we see with, because we don't have confidence motions. But in parliamentary systems, you can, for any reason, table that motion and get that person out, as the S&P has tabled this week. We tabled a confidence motion to the prime minister, and it's all public, and I encourage all members to sign it. But yes, let's take a little break here.
All right.
And then we will be right back. And we're back.
It's time to turn our attention away from this sceptred isle, this jewel of the North Atlantic, towards, the entire rest of the world, with the exception of America. So this is the international section, people.
The international section.
Yeah. So, and today we got two quick things we're going to talk about. Number one will be, what's up with gas prices? Why are they so low?
Low? What do you mean low?
I know. I see. I did that because it was going to be shocking. It's going to cause people to type in the comments. It's going to be great for the algorithm, Chris. I got this on lock.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
But I do want to introduce this as an actual topic of conversation. The thing is, gas prices are higher than they were before, Donald Trump invaded Iran and got the Strait of Hormuz closed and kind of, screwed everybody in the entire world all at once. But the amount by which the price of oil has risen is nowhere near what it should be. Because closing the Strait of Hormuz, this is cutting off about 20% of global oil supplies, as well as gas supplies, natural gas, that is, as well as helium, as well as fertilizer stuff. There's a lot going on. So this is going to have a really horrific effect, because if you take that much oil off of the market all at once, you will expect to see the price rise massively, enough to cut outputs by enough to equilibrate supply and demand. And that should be somewhere on the level of the height of the COVID pandemic.
Right.
When nobody was going to work, people were not driving, people were on lockdown. It wasn't great. And also this time there probably won't be any, funding coming from the government to replace
furloughs.
Yeah. So that's going to be a thing, right? Now, instead of all that happening, oil prices have been high, but nowhere near as high as they could be.
Yeah.
And this has caused a lot of economists to start asking questions. What on earth is going on here?
Wow.
And I admit, a lot of what I'm about to say, I'm taking from a YouTube channel called TLDR. They're a British sort of like news analysis site. They're pretty good. They're all right. They're
right. They're right.
Yeah. Haven't seen them do anything that's like egregious. And a lot of what they say tends to be pretty well reasoned and somewhat thoughtful. But so they sort of point out some reasons for why oil prices are somewhat depressed compared to where they should be.
Yeah.
And I want to sort of run them by you so we can, see what we think about them.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the big ones is that there are countries who normally ship their oil through the Strait of Hormuz who have alternative ways of getting their oil out. And actually that accounts for about 5 million barrels of the 20 million barrels a day that normally go through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. So Saudi Arabia has built an east-west pipeline that takes their oil that normally gets shipped out to the Gulf, and now they can actually send it across the country to the west coast and then have it shipped out from around the Gulf of Aden.
Right.
So that's allowed them to get, about 3.5 million barrels a day out into the global markets.
Okay.
That's
all
helpful.
Right. Yeah.
Iraq's able to send about 300,000 barrels a day north through pipelines to Turkey. You've also got Oman, which is able to send, it's on the eastern side of the Strait of Hormuz. It's been able to send some oil out that way. So that's about 1/4 of all the oil that otherwise would have been disrupted.
Okay.
And obviously that helps. That's
Definitely.
also nowhere near enough to deal with, to explain what we're seeing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So one of the big reasons to think that the real cause of why oil prices are relatively restrained is that before all this went down, the world had basically built up a massive supply of stocked and reserved oil.
Yeah.
That many countries had, like the United States, like China, have, been, while oil prices were low, buying up a bunch of excess because you could store it. It's not like it's going to go bad. And then you got it for a rainy day. It's been a rainy day for a few months now.
Yeah.
And so far, they've been able to push enough oil into the system to keep prices as low as they are.
And also remember that not OPEC, I'm sorry, the OECD, I believe, said, listen, you have to basically just, everyone use all, or was it the IMF? It was one of these international funds. They're just like, you have to use all of your oil right now.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to release all of their oil right now.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was a recognition that if you allow the kinds of disruptions that we're talking about to actually go forward fully, again, this is like the kind of disruption that we saw during COVID, and that was really bad. And governments had to borrow just a massive amount of money.
Yeah.
I don't know that governments can do that again.
Not so close to the last massive global shock.
Exactly. So, so I'm not surprised at all that you would see countries being willing to spend down those reserves. Question is how long they can do this.
Well, of course.
And there's an answer to that. That answer appears to be that they're going to run out sometime in September. So we got another few months. We got another few months of relatively restrained oil prices. So if you think oil prices are high now, you're right. Just it's not as high as it's going to be come September unless we get that supply back online.
Right.
And I think this is interesting because if you're Donald Trump, who started this war, started this massive price increase, started this huge disruption to the global economy.
This is all his fault.
Right? Oh, 100%. Like, it's amazing. Normally, if you're talking about, well, what caused this thing, you get people saying, well, it's multifactored and there's lots of things you have to consider and nothing is really caused by just one thing. But no, this is literally just Donald Trump is like, war were declared.
On February 27th, the Strait of Hormuz was open and oil was at a regular price.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So if we do see this ridiculous war continue, if we don't see an opening of the Strait of Hormuz before September, and even if we do, the flow of oil is probably not going to be back to normal until next year at the earliest, then Donald Trump may have created a perfect storm for himself in the coming November election. Because the oil runs out in September, you don't have enough supply being restored, prices for oil skyrocket, And all of a sudden, Donald Trump is not just an unpopular president with an unpopular war who has ratings on inflation that are, and I'm not kidding here, Chris, lower than those held by Joe Biden, lower than those held by Jimmy Carter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like this president is going to be leading his party into the midterm elections just as gas prices spike, and everyone knows that it's his fault.
Yeah. That's amazing. And obviously, as we will talk about in the next section, had they done any forward planning, which they clearly haven't, then somebody would have said, hey, guys, what if they blockade the Strait of Hormuz for an indefinite amount of time and we can't find a way to do it ourselves without putting boots on the ground? Guys, anyone? PDH? Anyone? Marco? Anyone? Okay, well, I'll just go over here and put myself on administrative leave. Bye.
Yeah. It's the funny thing is, Chris, people did do planning on this. The Pentagon does war planning all the time. They run war games.
Kind of their job.
They've done war games on like what happens if there's war with Iran for decades. So yeah, it's a real indication that they just weren't listening and they did not care. So that's what I have to say on that.
Yeah. So, guys, if you have anything you want to buy before September, I'd say go out and do that. That's my mind. I need to make sure I buy some things before September hits, because hey, listen, if this is we might just be in the middle of this thing. All right. Let's take another break. Just a real quick break.
All right.
We'll come back with the last section on the United States of America, and we'll be right back. We're back.
Chris.
Yo.
I think it's time for us to talk about Donald Trump.
Again? Actually, I'm going to override that. I want to talk about Melania.
Ooh, okay.
I want to talk about Melania. A few years ago, she went to a hurricane like help center because a hurricane had just come through either Puerto Rico or somewhere in the south of America. And she had on a jacket. Do you remember the name of that jacket?
Oh,
yeah, yes. On the back, it had writing.
There were words on the back of the jacket, and they said, if I'm not completely mistaken, I really don't care, do you?
So that's what she walked into a disaster zone wearing that. And at that point, it's like, no one's going to be dumber to say anything or wear anything like that at a time of national crisis. Now, Patrick, do you have anything to add to this conversation that might prove me wrong?
Funnily enough, I do.
Wow.
So, yeah, it appears Melania Trump may have got her ability to read a room from her husband. So Donald Trump was asked by the media just, very recently. So do you think about Americans' financial situation at all when you are thinking about ending the war in Iran?
Ooh, easy question. Very easy question.
Right? Exactly. Because you're president. Obviously, you care about America. That's why you wanted to be president. Obviously, the American people are foremost in your mind all the time. Obviously, yes, that's that's what a normal, sane person would say. But this is Donald Trump. So here's what he actually said, Chris.
Okay.
Not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit.
I don't think about America's financial situation. I only care about making sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. That's all that matters.
Can I just interject here? Because Americans, like on the MAGA side, are always like, at least Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. Do you want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Why do you support Iran having a nuclear weapon? So I just want to repeat now for the world to hear, because technically this is going out to the world. Trump, in quotes, obliterated their nuclear program in 2025. So that had already been accomplished according to Trump. I'll give it back to you now. I'll give it back to you.
Yeah, well, it's just great. It's really fantastic. But so it's a perfect example of how Donald Trump is really bad at politics on a very fundamental level. I say that. I know that sounds crazy because the man managed to get elected to the presidency twice.
And there are people who honestly believe that he really understands politics.
Oh, absolutely. There are people who think he is playing 12-dimensional chess every single day. Everything is all about owning the libs.
Trust the plan.
And it's right, exactly. And I think this quote kind of reveals that no, that's really just not true. Because to say on camera, Chris, not just
Yes.
reported in the media, but like on camera, knowing you're on camera. I don't think about Americans' financial situations even a little bit.
Even a little bit.
Right? Like it's like you're basically trying to create the soundbite of soundbites. It's like you're Michael Dukakis and you see a tank as you're walking down the street. You're like, I gotta get in that tank and call everyone to take a picture of me.
You got to put a big helmet on as well.
Oh, a huge helmet that makes you look like a dork.
Remember when that was enough?
Oh my God.
When that was enough?
Yep, sure was. Destroyed that man's campaign. And this is just so much worse. So much worse.
Oh yeah. Do you care about Americans' financial situations? They can fuck off. The fucking poor. Yeah. They can't. They're not allowed in my hotels. Then why the fuck do I care about them? Eat shit. Love you know what, Donald Trump.
You know what he said about like the stock market, right? He was expecting when he won a war with Iran that it would go down by like 25%. So the fact that it only went down by 10% just meant it was all going great.
Hey, listen, you can absorb that cost, can't you? Main Street USA. Hey-o.
Hey, would you want to know the last time the market dropped by like 25%, Chris?
When was that?
Oh, that was the Great Depression, Chris.
Wow. So he was expecting Great Depression levels.
Yeah.
Economic hits for his self-wanted war in Iran. What
that
amazing
was the plan, Chris.
Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Okay, so we have yelled at him enough on this particular subject. I think we need to talk about the ongoing fallout from this redistricting stuff.
You're right. That story is in no way done.
No, because it's just going to be like the redistricting wars. And the South is, again, like I said last week, trying to regrow the Confederacy. If you have one black member from your state in the House of Representatives, we got to get them out.
Yep.
Get them out. Got to get somebody else in there. But what's going on in South Carolina and Maryland?
Well, so South Carolina and Maryland, both of these are southern states. These are both members of the Confederacy. They have very different politics these days. South Carolina is one of the most Republican of states. It is extremely Republican. It very much was of the, it was the first state to secede in the Civil War, for example. So they've got a very particular history when it comes to voting rights for African Americans, which is to say they're against them and have been for over a century. And basically they have one black representative from the entire state. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, that's because, how many black people could there be in South Carolina? Well, to give you an idea, around the time of the Civil War, it was about 60% of South Carolina was African American. So like
60%.
Yeah. No, like it was a majority, like
not enough.
Majority.
Not enough. It's not enough. I'm sorry. There's no need for any of that here.
Yeah. So moral of the story being that South Carolina, they are pretty. Anyway, I won't get too much into it. I will just say that the one black representative that they have is a Democrat by the name of James Clyburn. And he is one of the he is an old hand. He is a grandee of the party. He is important, right, in terms of the Democratic Party. So at first, the Republicans in South Carolina who were looking at the redistricting wars were asking themselves, okay, do we district them out? Do we just get rid of the one black representative that we have, make it an all-white delegation from South Carolina? Or could this backfire on us? Because, actually are a lot of black people in South Carolina. And the more we stretch out the white vote to try to take over every single precinct and every single district, the greater the likelihood that in a wave election, we end up losing seats. So they've basically been asking themselves, do we take a risk here and get rid of one of the most powerful members of the Democratic Party and do it while looking like massive racists and take the risk of actually ending up getting 2 Democrats elected in the coming election?
Yeah.
And they've apparently decided, screw it. We're going for it. Hold my beer, guys. So they're just basically gonna try for an all-white caucus from South Carolina. It's not a great look, Chris.
Oh no, and I'm just going through some of these states right now who have these who are trying to get rid of their black members. I'm sorry, Democrats. It has nothing to do with race. Remember, it has nothing to do with race. It's just trying to eliminate Democrats from our state.
Right, exactly. It's not white supremacy. It's just fascism, Chris.
There should be one party in charge. And we will draw the districts to ensure that's the case. But we're looking at some of these now. And like, I think in South Carolina, there is one Democrat. Yeah. In North Carolina, there's like 4 out of probably 13. Always in the minority. So you already have like a majority Republican state. You have, and I'm sure most of those guys who are Republican are also going to be white. So the fact that you're trying to eliminate the 1 to 4, the very small amount of black Democratic senators, representatives, it just tells you everything that you need to know about the reasoning for this. And there was another thing that I think we should bring up real quick.
Yeah.
Seeing videos online about guys going over to the state houses when they're trying to redistrict all these states. And there's a guy who's just like, listen, I've lived here all my life. I'm a teacher. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. He's like, what you're doing today to try to, write this particular district out of existence is beyond shameful. We are the low. I think it may have been in Tennessee. We are the lowest in this. We are the lowest in that. We have this. We have that. There are so many things you could have done. You control all the different houses. You have a supermajority here, there, and everywhere. You could be changing everything. I've had the same representative for 30 years. Yeah. Since I was a boy, I've always had the same representative. Yep. And, it takes you years and years and years to, move a paperclip from left to right. But when this happens, you can get it done in a day.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that you need to remember is that this is not on accident. This is on purpose. And it's very specific to a very specific group of people.
Yeah. I think that's a very fair statement. So we should contrast this with the state of Maryland.
Yeah.
So state of Maryland, also part of the Confederacy, although or at least it would have been if it had been allowed to vote at the time. Instead, the federal government under Lincoln was like, if they secede, Washington, D.C. is surrounded. And no, we're not letting that happen. This is a civil war, you guys. So it was a whole thing. It's a fascinating constitutional moment. That's thus important in the fact that Maryland today is extremely democratic. It is a blue state. Yeah. There is only one Republican who has been elected from Maryland for quite some time. Oh. And again, it's not that there are no Republicans inside of Maryland, but Maryland is pretty frickin' gerrymandered. It's like probably the most gerrymandered Democratic-led state, right? So any time for the last 20 years, if you try talking with a Republican about the problem of partisan gerrymandering, they would always say, well, what about Maryland? Right. Yes. And obviously the response there is, that shouldn't happen either. We should get rid of partisan gerrymandering. This is a bad idea.
Which was attempted during the Biden years, and every single Republican voted against it.
Well, because they like partisan gerrymandering. That's how they get a majority, Chris.
That's how they win. It's the only way.
Well, that's the thing. So Maryland is basically looking at what happened in Virginia. And unlike Virginia, which had a constitutional amendment getting rid of partisan gerrymandering, because Democrats do shit like that when they have power, in Maryland, they never did pass a thing like that. They're fine with the whole partisan gerrymandering thing. And they are looking at South Carolina and they've said, okay, if you do that, we're going to play ball. We will absolutely gerrymander and have no Republicans from Maryland whatsoever. Yeah. Obviously, it's only a 1-seat gain, but I think it's just absolutely emblematic of the fact that on the one hand, you've got the Republican Party engaged in the reintroduction of white supremacy and Jim Crow through one-party politics. And on the other hand, you've got a Democratic Party that is now absolutely willing to fight fire with fire. And we haven't seen that before.
No, we haven't.
Not since Lyndon Johnson.
No, we haven't seen the Democrats actually get up and actually attach their testicles to their bodies. It's because, as you said many times, they thought that the system would just work itself out, and it just hasn't. Let's move on. There's more I could say, but let's move on so that we're not here for another 2 days. Another story that made its way into our collective minds was the story of there it is, the story of Benjamin Elliston.
Who is Benjamin Elliston, Chris?
Benjamin Elliston is a White House analyst who was caught on camera having a massive go at Trump. And having a go is a nice way of saying things here. But in reality, he basically called him a madman. He said that the White House basically works on vibes, that, basically they're spending $1 billion on this Trump's personal plane that he got from the Qataris. Like, he has just basically carved out the finest points of everything that's going wrong with the Trump administration and has sold it to a guy named James O'Keefe, or a company run by James O'Keefe. He was undercover, and the guy basically right in his face.
He thought he was on a date.
Oh, they always think they're on a date. They always think they're on a date.
That's how James O'Keefe does it. He sets up stings. He has honeypots, right? Yeah. And then, and get them, talking on camera, because like if you're meeting someone that you might want to snog, who knows, right? You kind of want to lead with, I'm an important person, I do important things. Also, this Trump guy's a goddamn lunatic, isn't he? Because what other topics of conversation could you possibly have in Washington, D.C.?
Quote, we have to get rid of him. Quote, that's a quote from him. That's a quote from an employee of the White House. We have to get rid of him. So obviously he's been put on administrative leave.
Yeah, I am surprised that he hasn't been put on a plane to Gitmo. Like, seriously. Like, I mean, the FBI is attacking the president's perceived enemies left and right for things that are not violations of law. Like, they're going after the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah. We've seen James Comey being threatened with, he's been indicted for for threatening the life of the president. Right, exactly. We've seen all sorts of crazy shit because, seashells are obviously a huge threat to the life of any president. This is,
I mean, unless you use the exact same terms the previous one, but that's okay, whatever.
Exactly.
But yeah,
so
go ahead.
Yeah. So my point here is that I'm not surprised that Benjamin Elliston is suffering some blowback from this. Yeah, like I keep an eye on him, like, because honestly, I feel like he's probably in for a very rough time. And yeah, he works for the Trump White House, and I got my suspicions about why someone would want to do that. But also, like he's right. He's right.
No, he's absolutely
Trump's a madman, and we have to get rid of him. So,
but there's I think the last thing we need to say here is that there is a number of things floating around now of behind the scenes people saying, this has to stop. We have to find an off ramp, but we can't because we're terrified of what will happen to us if we speak out. And that's the worst part, is that there is some other stuff floating around online by a guy who's just like, I spent at the beginning of 2020 in a safe house with a gun with guards protecting me because I was outed as a whistleblower, and he was afraid of MAGA coming after him. So, it's sad that that's where we are. Let's move on to the next subject. Mm-hmm. Kash Patel went to Hawaii and did a little diving.
He sure did. He sure did, Chris. Yeah, but it's okay. I know that sounds bad, but it's okay. He was going there as part of his official duties as head of the FBI to visit the Honolulu branch office and do a meet and greet, walk around and shake hands, see how everything's going. He was there on business. It's fine.
Yeah.
But then again, he did take some time during his business trip where he was doing business things to go snorkeling.
We can't fault a man for wanting to take a little time to blow off some steam. I mean, even I can say that if it was the weekend or whatever, sure. But I mean, as long as he was get to the beach, get to the oceans, go look at a reef or something. I mean, where did he go?
A reef is a funny thing to say, Chris, because it wasn't a normal sort of natural reef he was snorkeling around. No, it was a man-made reef. A reef specifically made by the Imperial Japanese Navy in 1941. December 11th, 1941. Yeah. And so December 7th? December 7th. Oh my God, I fucked that up. Oh, I feel so bad. All right.
That's
but so he was snorkeling at the site of the sinking of the USS Arizona.
Wow.
Which is off limits because that's a fucking graveyard. Like, that's where 900 sailors and Marines are entombed in a ship that went down in the attack on Pearl Harbor.
If I'm not mistaken, the bodies are still in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're entombed in there.
That's right.
Like, they're there. And when the other members of the crew over the year who survived the attack, a lot of them, when they have passed, have asked for their ashes to be buried there as well. It's a graveyard. It's a graveyard where American soldiers and sailors died. Like, it's as sacred a civic space as you can imagine in the state of Hawaii in the United States of America. And he took some time on a business trip to just go snorkel around it because, that it looked baller. That he got some real good images for the gram.
And that's exactly why he did it. That's the worst part. He probably brought his GoPro with him and just like, check it out, guys. I'm snorkeling above the USS Arizona. How fucking cool is this?
Right. Right.
Like, and this is the same, like, respect the police people. This is the same thank you for your service people. This is fucking, that's gross, man.
Well, but those are words, Chris. And words are cheap and easy. Whereas, if you got power, why would you not abuse it?
Well, as we are learning now, that seems to be the name of the game. So so Kash Patel continuing to cover himself in glory, and I hope he was at least sober when he was, because he always is, because he doesn't drink. Because when he was snorkeling over the bodies of those entombed on the USS Arizona after the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor.
Fun.
Wow. So I think from that we will turn to some good news.
Oh yes, please.
Right. So this is good news out of the city of New York, which I don't normally do because I'm from Chicago and New York is like pee.
This is very big of you, Chris.
But I got a notification on my phone that Mayor Mamdani has balanced their budget, removing the deficit, a $12 billion deficit, I believe.
Wow.
And basically he's done it in a number of different ways, but some of which is getting rid of loopholes for rich people. Some of it is increasing fines. Some of it, but he hasn't done it by the way that everybody wants you to fix these things, like Kemi Badenoch. Find the poor, kick them in the nuts. Find the sick, push them out of their beds because they're just lazy. They're just lazy. They want to get out there and work in the mines. You just have to encourage them to do so.
Exactly, Chris. So it's impressive that he's put forward this budget, and it is raising just bloody murder screams basically from a lot of people on the right, which is interesting to me because normally the right wing likes to talk about fiscal responsibility and how running deficits is a sign that you're, a bad politician and whatnot. Yeah. And if this budget is what Zoran Mamdani is saying it is, then he has done something really quite big, which is to do a thing that will help the city of New York going forward. Apparently, one of the things he's doing, I saw, is that, or I think that you told me about first, was that by making regular payments on its debt, by setting out a clear schedule, they're going to be able to basically borrow at a lower interest rate, which is going to save them something like over $1 billion.
$1.64 billion saved in the next fiscal year.
Right, which is just, the thing is, if you're in Britain and you suffer through the Liz Truss mini government, then you may remember the mini budget. That mini exploded the deficit and also hiked interest rates. So now my mortgage costs 50% more than it did before she got started. So
of course, Liz Truss, of course, she refutes all of that.
Obviously, but I know my bank statements, so she's lying. But the thing is, the markets have a term for what happened there, and it's called, Chris, the moron tax. It's the tax you pay by being so bad at your job that investors are no longer willing to lend at normal interest rates because now they got to build in an extra, but these are morons, so maybe I don't get my money back, part of the interest rate. Yeah. It sounds like Zoran Mamdani is effectively kind of like doing a little bit of the moron tax there, which if that works out, that's great. That's nice. I like that. That's less money for bankers, more money for the people of New York.
Well, yeah, and he's putting it into libraries. He's putting it into the parks. He's putting it into the universities. He's putting it into education, safety, streets. So he's got, and it's a big budget. It's I think $124 billion.
Yeah.
So. Sorry about that. So basically, we're talking about he's made a lot of changes. He's apparently gotten rid of the deficit. We'll see if it comes to fruition. But I mean, he's taxing people's second homes basically. A pied-à-terre tax. He is.
It's hard to argue against a pied-à-terre tax. You know,
he's taxing kind of an unincorporated business tax credit that apparently lots of millionaires use. I mean, so he's like, people have obviously come in knowing what to do to kind of fix the budget. And it's just, you needed somebody to do it, which is why you need to elect people who are, one, they're charisma. They have charisma. They have the
they got the
ability. They have the riz, but they also have the people behind them who are willing to take the chances. Because obviously, you know, now the big question for Mamdani is: will the billionaires flee from New York en masse, and the millionaires, and move their families and move their entire lives to Dubai or to South Carolina or to Nebraska? I'm going to say not a lot of them. I'm going to say that it's going to be maybe one guy who was already moving anyway. But I mean, you're going to move your kids out of their private school. You're going to move your family. You got to find somewhere else to live. And it's not going to be New York. Right. Yeah. So
and that's the thing, is that if you know anything about New Yorkers, they think New York is the center of the universe.
Yeah. They should
like leaving New York for a New Yorker is like leaving London for a Londoner. It's social death, an admission of defeat.
Yeah.
Everything has clearly gone horribly wrong.
Now, I'll also say that you can move to Chicago, and that's even better. We have a lake, we have a river, and everything smells better and tastes better. Moving on.
It's a great lake. It's a great lake.
It is a great lake. It's ours.
And Canada's. Anywho,
no. Lake Michigan is America's only. It's the only
all
American
the way,
lake
all the way
top
through
to the bottom.
Are you? So if I'm in Canada and I decide to go dip my toes in the water, right? I'm technically trespassing on American soil.
No,
is that what you're saying?
No. You would do it in Huron or Ontario or the Erie or the Superior. Those are all shared. But Michigan, that's just us.
Wow. Okay. All right.
And there's your geography lesson for today.
Duly noted.
All right. Well, and on that surprisingly geographic note, as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armshaw.
And we're your doctors.
Not doctors.
Good night.